and welcome to this special edition of Computer Chronicles. We're here in Monte Carlo in the Principality of Monaco, and appropriately enough, on this rather high-priced piece of real estate, we'll be talking to some rather high-priced executives in the computer industry. Bill Gates of Microsoft, Tim Kugel of Yahoo, Ray Lane of Oracle, more than a dozen other CEOs of the world's leading technology companies. We're here to cover the 10th annual ETRE, the European Technology Roundtable Exhibition. It's underway right now, right here in the Monte Carlo Grand Hotel.
Well, good afternoon.
There's always a crowd when Microsoft's Bill Gates shows up. But at this global gathering of digital visionaries, it seemed clear that the high-tech world was in the process of anointing new Microsofts and new Intels. In the new world of the Internet, Amazon.com is now seen as the Microsoft of e-commerce.
They've done a lot of innovative things, but it's, I think, the tip of the iceberg. I mean, that company is a Microsoftian story going forward. Now, that doesn't mean they will necessarily be a long-term profitable company, but at this point, they dominate the perception and the reality of consumer-oriented e-commerce.
If Amazon is the Microsoft of e-commerce, then Inktomy, a company you probably never heard of, is now seen as the Intel of the Internet.
Intel's been synonymous with, as we needed more speed and power in our computers, they provided that. The Internet's a little bit different because it's data movement, it's not computation. So Intel, you do computation with the chip. The movement of information is really what the software architecture is set up to do. So we are like Intel in the sense of, as more and more power is needed to move this information, we do that through software.
Their software is the engine underneath the searches you do on most websites, such as AOL and Yahoo, and even on most e-commerce sites. Many online stores also use Oracle databases to power their businesses. Ray Lane, president of Oracle, says e-commerce is changing all the rules for customer loyalty.
I'm a loyal customer of you. Okay, you're my supplier. I've done business with you for 20 years. Well, I feel like I'm actually violating our relationship if I actually go sit down, talk to one of your competitors. I'm going to do it. I probably will check the prices, but you've made it difficult for me because we have a relationship or because you have a physical connection that allows me to do that. On the Internet, all I have to do in the privacy of my office without you ever knowing it is click to your competitive website, look at the prices, look at availability, and even try it.
Ray Lane says e-commerce is also changing the rules for consumers as well as businesses.
First time my wife went to Amazon, she didn't trust it. She said, but we'll try it. Ordered 6 books, 5 showed up. She says, aha, doesn't work. I'm going back to the bookstore. Amazon gave her the last book, didn't give it to her for free, but sent it to her and basically made it such a high quality experience that she said, there's no reason not to do it this way. And a lot of products will be bought that way. And so her loyalty, was easier to change. It was click loyalty as opposed to having to get into a car or drive or meet somebody new or fill out paperwork. None of that. All she had to do was click to a website and she was disloyal.
The power of e-commerce is that you can shop at several stores at once, using intelligent agents to scour the web and find the best deal.
Let's say I want to buy a DVD player, and I don't know anything about them except they play movies. But I don't know what features I should look for and ask for. Because Inktomy has indexed all the information about DVD players from all the merchants out there, when I go there, it'll actually say, okay, well, let me give you the Consumer's Digest report first that'll tell you about DVD players and the features. That shopping engine will then say, here's the 20 most commonly asked for features of DVD players, check off the ones you want, and then it'll bring me back all of the manufacturers who make DVD players with that combination of features.
The coolest new e-commerce technology lets online vendors run instant sales to take advantage of virtual traffic in the same way they might take advantage of physical traffic in a bricks and mortar store.
So just like you've got a blue light special at Kmart, while I'm in searching for a DVD player, our engine, if a merchant has a special on DVDs, can flash that at me that says, oh, by the way, buy a DVD from me and get 3 free movies.
One of the barriers still holding e-commerce back is consumer concern about online security and using their credit cards on the web. One solution to that problem, shown here at ETRE, is NextCard, billed as the first internet credit card. What's cool about NextCard is that you apply for the card online and you get approved online, usually within a matter of seconds. NextCard also automatically scans your credit record and offers to transfer all your credit balances to your new card, often at a very attractive rate. NextCard will even send your monthly statement via the internet, where you can pay your bill through electronic banking. You can also use the plastic to shop in traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Just as with physical shops, online merchandising is moving toward niche markets. And one of the hottest niche markets, if not the hottest, is women. And contrary to popular belief, women don't always want to shop at the mall.
I believe that there's a kind of shopping that belongs in stores. You know, Versace gowns should be an in-person experience. But I think buying your fourth pair of Gap jeans in the same size and color, why would you want to go take that time out of your life? Why wouldn't you want to go to something that had all that recorded and you just push a button? So what I think is the shopping experience will begin to really bifurcate into things which are truly pleasurable shopping experiences, and then the internet will replace those things which are mostly annoying shopping experiences for people because they're repetitive and exhausting, and all of us have had those shopping experiences. The internet will replace those completely, I'm sure.
The other hot niche market for e-commerce, if you can call it a niche, is business-to-business trading. B2B has led the way in online sales, but has it actually expanded the volume of business?
Well, when Intel went online with Compaq and its other big clients, customers, that was $12 billion in B2B e-commerce created overnight. So most B2B that's happening so far is really just a sales process that was once on the phone, now on the internet. And the transformative qualities of the internet, where the internet, the nature of the new relationship begins to really alter how business is conducted, has not yet really hit business.
The Wall Street darling of the B2B world is VerticalNet. The young company with only $200 million in sales now has a market capitalization of over $2 billion. But VerticalNet's CEO says they're worth it because they build meaningful e-commerce communities.
In business-to-business marketplaces, communities are palpable. If you go to a business-to-business trade show, I just went to the Powder and Bulk Solid Show in Rosemont, Illinois, the 20,000 people at that convention center looking at those machines and those services, that's a community. And the internet really approaches, attacks, and enhances that communal sensation of buyers and suppliers communicating all the time. So in fact, the internet is quite a natural marketplace in a very broad sense, but when you get into these deep industrial or technological communities, the internet must be focused, like our search engine is, must be content-rich, like our editors bring, and must have marketplaces that really bring only the products you care about to the fore.
Oracle's Ray Lane says B2B is hot not only because it builds communities, but because it drastically cuts the costs of sales.
What we're seeing is an order of magnitude difference, not 20 or 30% savings, an order of magnitude difference in the cost of the way we do business today and the cost we could do it on the internet. We have very good examples today, and that's why you're seeing huge valuations occur for someone that can do internet procurement and save somebody like a Fortune 500 company could save $500 million in the way they buy stuff.
One of the problems for businesses buying on the web is that most general e-commerce search engines cover too much territory and don't do a good enough job for the targeted buyer.
Well, if you go to Yahoo and type in pump, you get ladies' shoes, you get a wide variety. You can imagine, any internet user can imagine, when you type in some of these words. If you go to water online and type in pump, you'll see about 67 different types of pumps: heat exchange pumps, pinch valve pumps, all types of pumps, corrosive material pumps, and you can drill down in the listing to specific types of pumps, find manufacturers of those pumps, leave them a sales lead, and buy the pump. That's what B2B is about.
There are two economic engines creating revenue for the internet these days: e-commerce and advertising. But advertising on the web is still in its infancy. Today, 9% of screen viewing time is spent in front of internet computer screens, yet only 1% of all electronic advertising dollars are going to internet sites. But according to Tim Kugel, CEO of Yahoo, the future for web advertising is very bright despite those numbers.
When you build a brand new medium, certainly, or a brand new industry, there's always a learning curve associated with it. In this case, there's a learning curve associated with the advertisers and the agencies to some extent, figuring out how to effectively use this medium. And there's just a learning curve. If you look at the fundamentals, this is already a large mass medium. You know, it's already reaching over 150 million users, growing quite exponentially. That's big. And the nature of the medium itself, the web, is that it is interactive and measurable. It brings higher value than any medium in the past.
Some websites are thinking out of the box and trying to redefine traditional advertising models for the internet.
Instead of just selling impressions, sell a more integrated marketing solution, not only to our consumers but to our advertisers. In other words, with Ford, we actually do a lot of consumer research on the spot, car design research. We allow our sponsors to sell products on iVillage. We do new product launches for them. So it's actually much more comprehensive than just impressions and just banners.
Some websites are also trying to come up with new models for setting advertising rates on the net, based on actual performance rather than just the number of eyeballs.
It's a direct marketing paradigm that's enabled on this medium. All media in the past have been one way. TV, you never really knew directly whether somebody saw the ad and whether they got excited about it. Same is true for print, same is true for cable, same is true for radio. You can measure it here, real time. And for that reason, advertisers who are coming up the learning curve say, look, I can measure this and I can see, in fact, how it's performing and I can change it. And they're beginning to tie some of the compensation schemes with their agencies to actually creating performance.
With broadband net access growing, most internet executives here expect to see television-style ads on the net, commercials with emotion, not just facts.
Bandwidth will allow the delivery of video, audio, and text combined, and probably allow more evocative marketing messages, much the same as you see in broadcast media, build passion among your consumers. And that kind of richness, I think, is going to be enabled by broadband.
But there is a problem with that. Today's internet advertising revenue models were not built for streaming commercials.
People are clearly getting ready, both at home and the office, to listen to audio, to see video via the internet, and the technology is getting there. The business problem that comes up is how do we pay for it? Because now we've sort of developed this advertising model based on page views. You see a page and you get an ad. What do you do when someone clicks on something and sits there and watches a video stream for 20 or 30 seconds? How do we charge for that? In a way, you go back to the old-fashioned television model. You start popping ads right into the middle of it. But that's more like television than the internet. So I think we've got some thinking to do on that one.
There is a compromise between streaming video and boring static web pages on a shopping site. One Swedish company called Sycor has developed a three-dimensional engine called Cult 3D for putting virtual products on the web that you look at, play with, and almost touch. Another area of interest for cyber stores is how to attract shoppers and how to motivate them to become buyers. One hot area is promoting new MP3 songs on the web. This solution comes from a company called Why Not. They started out as an animated greeting card site, but then applied their animation technology to hyping MP3 artists. And of course, using the viral marketing power of the web, they make it easy for you to send along the music promo to a friend.
Monaco has been around for a long time. It dates back to 2000 BC. And for the past 700 years, this has been a very wealthy enclave. Why has this little piece of rock become so valuable? It is a portal, the only way to get from the Italian coast to the French coast. This is not an unfamiliar theme to the executives here at ETRE who are banking on the portals of the internet.
A few more slides here to kind of talk to this.
The powerhouses of the internet right now are the general interest portals like AOL and Yahoo. They started out as search engines or as gateways to destination sites, but they were able to do that thanks to the software developed by companies like Inktomi. The original commercial application for Inktomi software was in the corporate market, but when the internet took off, it was clear that the web was bigger than the world's biggest corporation.
The largest corporation in the world only has 600,000 employees, so that's the biggest challenge that we have to solve for in enterprise software. The internet has 140 million users today. That's the world's biggest enterprise, and it's going to be, 500 million users within 2 or 3 years. This was the only software architecture that I saw that was going to be capable of handling that many users going after that much information.
That all sounds very nice, but as we know, searching for something on the web is still a very inexact science and a tricky business. Take Yahoo, for example.
Yahoo is an editorial directory. They have hundreds of editors and they have about 1/10% of the web catalog. It's just not possible for someone to do that and actually have a business. The search engines that do it algorithmically are constantly being tricked and manipulated by people who are, spamming them, putting more words on the page such that they rank higher, and so you see adult sites when you search for Girl Scouts. Well, they're manipulating the search engine. Well, that's because they have no incentive to do otherwise.
There is a sense here at ETRE that some of the general-purpose portals may be losing some of their clout. That's certainly the view of the new niche portal operators like Candace Carpenter of iVillage.
They're declining as a share of advertising dollars, which is exactly what you'd expect. That is not a bad news story for the portals. It just means that you're beginning to get choices. The advertisers now have choices. And I think the top portals will, if anything, gain raw advertising dollars. I think the more marginal portals will be the ones we see getting hit. Advertisers used to go to 5 portals and then come to iVillage or CNET. Now they go straight to us, or maybe they do 1 or 2 portals. I think AOL and Yahoo will always be must-buys, and I think in each of these categories the leading player will be a must-buy, and there'll be a kind of coexistence. What I think will happen is the weaker portals, the ones that are not at the very top of the heap, will become less essential. And we see a lot of advertisers skipping them already.
If you take the top 10 portals and you say, how much of the audience out there do they reach on a monthly basis? It's like 95%. But how many of the page impressions do they generate for those users? It's only about 15%. So people are going through the portals. They're going other places, though. So there's so much opportunity across the internet, in fact, about 10 times as much as there is at the portals, to reach customers.
Venture capitalist Steve Jurvetson agrees and says that ISPs like AOL could cause problems for portals like Tim Kugel's Yahoo.
When they asked TK what does he fear the most, he said people controlling access and having unfair competition. Well, the bell went off in my head. What does that mean? He mentioned AOL and Microsoft as examples. What he says is the ISP, the browser, the person that owns that customer pipe could use that for unfair competition in Yahoo's perspective. But maybe it's not so unfair. Maybe it's AOL saying, well, we're going to make sure that all the AOL content gets delivered to your browser really quickly. And oh gosh, well, I'm not sure why, but Yahoo's pages don't load as fast. That could have a huge impact on Yahoo's business. And the reason is because AOL is closer to the consumer's eyeballs. It's sort of that persistent presence. It's your ISP. It's the thing you log into.
But TK, Yahoo's Tim Kugel, doesn't seem concerned. He says that Yahoo is well positioned because it has always seen itself as a media company, not a technology company.
We said to ourselves, this is all about information delivery. Smells like a media business, right? And if you're going to build a media franchise, which is what we set about to do from the beginning, 3 things matter: brand, content, we'll say generically content, and distribution. And that mantra is what we started out embracing, and we said, we're building this. Our competitors at that time, which is late 1995, were all saying, this is a technology business. And so they were busy building a kind of a public face and a presence all around, whether their crawlers were faster, whether their compressed text index was a little bit bigger, and all those things that consumers don't really want to have to care about in the long term.
Alex Vieux, the host at this ETRE conference, also thinks Yahoo is strong because it is ahead of the competition in planning a truly global internet business.
There's this famous TK, Tim Kugel law. The TK law is to say that most of the eyeballs in 2 years will be outside of America. This is an important phenomenon that American companies on the net don't understand. So the ones who will succeed, and you can see that in the B2B with Commerce One, with the infrastructure with Ink2Me, are the ones who are starting early to go international and who have had the experience of setting foot on different continents at the same time.
Ironically, it is global competitors from abroad who are coming up with new internet utilities that may challenge what some of the traditional portals do. Invention Machine Corporation is a company founded by Russian software engineers, and they want to move past search engines to what they call reading engines. This is their product, CoBrain. It doesn't only find information on the web, it reads it for you. summarizes it for you, and points you to the exact information you're looking for. Right now, CoBrain is aimed at the corporate and technical markets, but its innovative technology could easily migrate to the consumer. This is another new internet product from a French company called Kibu. What Kibu does is automatically assemble a personalized virtual book for you using material you have found on the web. It organizes the material for you, lays it out, even builds an automatic index and table of contents. You can customize your books for particular individuals and then send them electronically.
The main activity here in Monte Carlo is casino gambling. And you might say the main activity here at ETRE is internet gambling. Lots of venture capitalists running around with billions of dollars to spend investing in new high-tech startups, almost all of them having to do with the net.
The capital markets today anticipate the future volume in a pretty incredible way. And there's no doubt that's correct. The volumes will be very, very high. There's two things you'd have to say that are really unanswered questions for many of these businesses. What will the level of profitability be? And how much overcrowding? That is, it's the barriers to entry are so very low. What are the relative market shares likely to look like? Some of the valuations basically assume you get good profitability and extremely high market share, as well as the volume increase, which I'm glad to take for granted. So, there's a level of risk in these and a level of opportunity in them that make them a little bit different than, widows and orphans type stocks.
Bill Gates has the perspective of a man who has been in this game for 25 years. The question many Bill Gates wannabes have is it too late to build an internet empire and make your $1 billion? The opinions are mixed.
Never been a better time to be an entrepreneur. Maybe that's the bottom line. Not only are there a wealth of opportunities to start companies in the internet, people from all different types of backgrounds now can be entrepreneurs, but you also have a flood of capital. So the thing I would want to first emphasize is that you don't need to be a PhD in electrical engineering and understand chip design today to be an internet startup, right? 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you needed a background almost that esoteric, or at least you had to have someone on your team with that kind of background before you could even hope to be an entrepreneur. Today, it's open to people internationally, it's open to people from marketing backgrounds, from consumer products backgrounds, you name it.
That may be true, but it is getting more and more expensive to get into the game.
If you're starting from scratch now and trying to build a critical mass brand on the internet, the cost of building a critical mass brand is orders of magnitude higher than it was 4 years ago. Almost prohibitive for some startup enterprises, but not quite still. If you have something very good, something very compelling to consumers and are very clever and very fast, you can still get in and establish a presence. So, it'll never be over. But it is much higher now.
Another problem these days is finding people. With so many startups and so many stock option lures, it's not only hard to find staff, it's hard to keep them, even at a software powerhouse like Oracle.
I've had 2 or 3 examples this year where I prefer not to lose these types of people. The problem is the offers are getting so big. People that just don't have a chance to become a president or a CEO are getting offers like that. Here's a pre-IPO, 10% of the company. You can't tell people that are as talented as some of the people I've recruited or brought from other places. You just can't tell them not to do that, because what I'd be doing is telling them not to do what I did.
That's not hard to understand. David Wetherill founded a little startup a while back. He invested less than $1 million, but now runs a company valued at $16 billion.
We had invested about $900,000 in the development of this technology and received about $30 million in AOL stock. We held on to that stock for a number of months. I wanted to hold on to it more, but our board says, go ahead and sell it. We made $73 million out of it. They thought that was great, and what if AOL went down? Had we monetized it, our AOL stock would be $4 or $5 billion today. We didn't, although we did a good job of investing it and developing it. And, thank you, Steve Case.
But it's not all roses. Newsweek's Mike Rogers says the internet is a wild ride right now because it's so new and so unregulated.
That the internet entrepreneur has not yet come to terms with the fact that the government actually sets the rules at the end of the day and has not begun really on an international scale to set the rules on the internet. It makes me think that a few years out, when we really begin to start getting government regulation of the internet, some entrepreneurs are going to be very surprised.
In fact, the whole venture capital business is a little bit crazy these days. Money is pouring into internet startups at the rate of over $2 billion a month. And the amazing thing is that no one seems worried about failure.
I think there should be more crazy businesses funded that fail, given the returns we're seeing for the ones that do well. I mean, you think about it. If you were an investor in eBay, or in Hotmail, or in GoTo, or in Tumbleweed, or in Net Zero in our portfolio, if we could have doubled the number of losers but captured one more winner, we would have done it. I mean, let me say that again. If we could double our losers to gain one more winner, that would be a good trade-off. Because you can only lose 100% of your money. But when you hit it big, we've made 1,000 times our money on some of the ones we've hit big.
But some industry investors are worried that the money is flowing too easily.
In the venture capital community, the money has come easy, both to raise and in terms of return. So everybody thinks that everything will always be like that, forgetting that there have been two downturns in the 80s where there were tens and tens and tens of venture capitalists laid off by the venture fund because they could not raise money anymore. So the money has come easy, and it's a very big problem as well for the entrepreneurs who think that they will always have the money, or they think they start raising huge quantities of money that they may not need, and the day after they raise the money, the company buys a BMW for the CEO.
Forget the BMWs and forget the money. There is a sense here at ETRE that these 20-something millionaires are changing the world. And Fortune's David Kirkpatrick says it's exciting.
One of the things I think is so fascinating about this year's ETRE is there are almost no hardware companies here. And ETRE historically was always a conference that had chip companies and PC companies, and really it's just not interesting to this crowd. And you've seen a tremendous number of internet companies come, and I have to say, as a journalist and as a participant, much as I enjoy, writing about the PC companies, or used to enjoy it, this is a fundamentally new and much more exciting thing to be participating in, because the companies that are at this conference and are at other technology conferences these days are companies that really aren't here to sell you X. They're companies that are trying to really transform the way the world is organized.
That's part one of our coverage of the ETRE conference. We'll have part two next week as we feature Microsoft Chairman Bill Gates and his views on the future of the high-tech industry. I'm Stuart Chaffee for the Computer Chronicles at the ETRE conference in Monte Carlo.
To purchase a videotape copy of today's program, call toll-free 1-888-310-7850. Please specify the show number and the topic.